few questions about the Attention Shifting 1.0 audio programs. People want to know, what exactly are they, how do they work, and what should I expect from using them? And a quick rundown from the top down. Basically, they're 20-minute to 50-minute MP3 audio programs. And in the background of the audio programs, of course, I've got music and stuff that I've created there, but I've also got binaural beats, and those are low frequency pulsations that will cause brain entrainment. And brain entrainment is based off of the scientific research that shows that our brain vibrates at certain frequencies during different activities. So for example, most of the time, if you're watching this video right now, you're probably wavering between a beta frequency, the beta wave range, and the alpha wave range, which are 13 to 40 hertz or 7 to 13 hertz, as you can see. And as people who are familiar with meditation or hypnosis or guided imagery, they're probably more used to being able to drop down into the 4 to 7 hertz. And if they've had transcendent experiences or transpersonal experiences, they've probably experienced times where they've dropped below 4 hertz, where they've kind of experienced oneness with the universe. It's a very powerful feeling. It's a very, very enlightening. And I use this kind of frequency in the background of the programs because it helps to increase vivification. It helps increase the reality that a person is experiencing while they're listening to these programs. Now, the personal development content is based off of 4 different core elements. The first is the Perennial Philosophy. The second is Transpersonal Psychology. Third is Ericksonian Hypnosis. And fourth is Neurolinguistic Programming, or NLP. And first, the Perennial Philosophy is basically a collection of universal truths. They're cross-cultural, they're archetypally themed, and they revolve around the focus of most major religions and spiritual practices, which seek to answer 2 questions. What is the meaning of life, and what happens after life? Transpersonal psychology is the psychology of human development towards excellence. It's seeking to create the full expression of spiritual and the physical within a person, and it follows archetypal models for full human development. And by the word archetypal, I mean the best way to show it would be to give an example of a cartoonist who draws a man with a long gray beard, white robes, sitting up in the clouds. We could all probably universally look at that and go, oh, that's God. Well, sure, in whatever religious belief system you have, that might be a representation of what God is, but it's probably not God. You just know that that is that identity. The same way that you could look at a mother, or you could look at a father, you could look at a soldier, you could look at a school teacher. These are all archetypal forms. You could just look at that and know that that's kind of a role that they play. What I use is Ericksonian hypnosis, and it's different from traditional hypnosis, depth hypnosis, because I start to use ambiguity and metaphor, because I know that if I start to talk about a waterfall, for instance, that you're going to automatically refer back to a waterfall that you've seen, whether it's in a picture or in real life. And as you start to think about the waterfall, you might notice what it'd be like to hear the waterfall roaring down the side of a mountain and crashing into a pool far below. And as that's happening, mist begins to come off of this waterfall, and you can feel that mist landing upon your skin. Now, I know that I can take your fixation, your attention, and I can place it on certain content. And I also know that you can't help but process information as it's coming out of my mouth. And in fact, I could say something like, hey, whatever you do, don't think about a red truck. And if you try not to think about a red truck long enough, you're gonna find that you actually can't help but think about a red truck, because that's just the way that our human mind works. Lastly, neurolinguistic programming gives me a map and a structure to provide you with an environment to make the changes that are relevant to the situation that you're experiencing and the outcomes that you desire to have. One of the first presuppositions of neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, is that the map is not the territory. That means reality is not the symbol, not the construct that we actually give it. It could be that, it could be less, it could be more, and it's often all of the above. And we process information through representational systems, our five senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. And this is the way that information comes into our bodies. And using this information, we make decisions. And we have a way of making decisions which is known as our meta programs, which are basically our strategy for having strategies. A different way of making decisions based upon the context. And within that, we also have submodalities. And submodalities are the structures of our representational systems. So if you're thinking about something visual, if you wanted to remember a house that you live in, or perhaps a house that you lived in 2 years ago. Now, as I start to talk about the house that you lived in 2 years ago, you might find that your mind automatically begins to recall different rooms, perhaps what it looked like on the inside, perhaps one of the rooms where you might have done something like watch movies or slept. And your mind can't help but store this information. And as you're getting a visual recollection of what it was like to live in that house, you could probably find that you can turn the color off. You might be able to make the memory black and white. Or if it was black and white, you can give it color. And you can even shrink that image down so it's the size of a postage stamp, or you can make it large enough so that it would be ginormous, like it was on an outdoor theater screen. So your mind has a ton of flexibility, and the way that you change those submodalities, the dynamics of your internal experience, it affects your emotions. And these programs, they work in this way. You're going to experience a relaxed, slightly meditative state of mind in which you can recall past experiences, and you can change the way that you store those experiences in your mind. You can transform limiting experiences into learning events that will allow you to become more successful in future instances. Then you can create hypothetical situations to practice in your mind's eye. And it's going to be similar to studying for an exam or preparing for a presentation, except for it's more vivid and it's relevant to what you want to experience. And the reason why you'd want to use these programs is because, remember Pavlovian conditioning? Ring the bell and the dog salivates? That's a conditioned response. Well, it's likely that you've been conditioned to a lot of things. Outbursts of anger, sadness, depression, hopelessness, confusion, lack of resources, limiting beliefs, cycles of defeat and failure. And this is just because you probably haven't known, haven't shown until now, or paid attention to the way that you store your memories or internal representations of the universe around you. And by changing the dynamics, the submodalities of the thoughts, those pictures or movie clips in your mind that seem to spontaneously occur, is going to change your emotional state. Your emotions affect your body's chemistry. Your chemistry affects your physiology. Your physiology affects your resourcefulness in any given situation. And what you're going to notice with these audio programs is that you're going to be able to plan ahead for specific events that require confidence, clarity, focus, personal empowerment, whatever you decide you need. And you're not going to be thrown off by involuntary reactions or responses to your environment. Instead, you're going to learn that you have control over your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and you can plan for any situation. So I encourage you to try out one of my free audio programs. Download the Intro to NLP just by going to my website, store.attentionshifting.com. When you get there, you're going to notice in the upper right hand corner there's a little box that says free download Intro to NLP. Well, just plug your information in right there. You can unsubscribe anytime. I use Aweber. You've got full control over your subscription. So this isn't for everyone, but it's for the person who's tired of being pushed and pulled by their emotions, by other people's limiting expectations, and tired of being weighed down by their past failures and fears. There are other options. This is your time. Be amazing. And relentlessly pursue a life of significance, because you can. You have the resources now.